Hello, Kennedale. This is Jeff Navarez with the Kennedale News, and I'm here with our coffee chat series. And today we're going to do City Council Place 3. But before that, a word from our sponsor. We are co-sponsored in this matter with the Kennedale Rotary Club. And it's about that time a year where we need to sign up for your flags. So if you've ever seen during Memorial Day or Veterans Day, the flags out in everybody's yards, the long poles, that's the Rotary Club. And what they do for $50 for 6 times a year, we go out and we put the flags on the front of your house to show patriotism. But the money actually goes into our schools and our students. So we take that money and we hire the students of Kennedale High School to go out and put the flags, and that fundraises for like their prom, for example. The Kennedale Interact Club also fundraises off of that. They'll be doing the flags as well. And also, it also fundraises on our part to Kennedale students' scholarships. So all the money goes to our seniors for their activities and their college funds. So for $50, just come to KennedaleRotaryClub.com, scroll on down to this section right here, and there'll be a link for you to sign up, or you can just contact us. Here's the link right here. You contact us, reach out to us, email. And if you want to verify your subscription, we'd be happy to do so. So KennedaleRotaryClub.com, and we appreciate Kennedale Rotary Club for allowing us the Zoom to do this. So back to the coffee chat. Let me introduce our guests today. We have Julie Jacobson and Chris Pugh, and they're running for City Council Place 3. How's it going, guys?
Good. Thank you for
having us.
Good. Let's just start off with a little intro. I know some people know Chris, but Julie, you're kind of a newcomer to the team. So let's start off with Julie. Why don't you just kind of introduce yourself and what you do and what you do for the city? I know you're on a couple boards.
So I was just recently appointed to the EDC and the TERS board. Have not had the opportunity to start working on those boards yet, but I am looking forward to it. I've lived in Kennedale since 2014. I've been in the area since 1992. And I'm very interested in becoming involved in the city of Kennedale, just to make sure that all of the citizen voices are heard and that we're getting the outcome that we, the people, want. And that's what I'm looking forward to helping achieve.
Excellent. And Mr. Pugh, Chris Pugh, who was former city council for place 4?
2.
It was 2.
Yes,
go ahead and introduce yourself for people who maybe weren't here a couple of years ago.
My name's Chris Pugh. I originally grew up in West Texas, just outside of Lubbock. I moved to Kennedale in 2016 or 2015, 2016. I forget.
Yep.
2015. And I served on a couple of boards during the water review back when we were having some issues with the rates. I served on the P&Z as a board member, and I served as the chair of the P&Z for several months. And then I served on the city council from 2018 until late in 2020. Had a little extra time on the council because of the delay in the election. And was involved in doing some things I think are very positive for the city. And I would still like to be involved in the city if I can. So I decided to file for the seat that was vacated when Sandra Lee accepted the constable's position.
Constable Lee, I got to interview a couple of weeks ago. I saw her out there, and she's working hard at that. She's finishing off her constable or the police academy school, and she's ready to take over. So we wish her our best for sure. Now, I think this is actually a great matchup because you both technically have a legal background. Julie is an attorney, and Chris, you're a retired police officer. And to me, somebody who works in the field in Tarrant County, it's just that kind of mentality that you can bring to the table, and from both approaches, the investigation report, being thorough, and just kind of looking outside the box sometimes. And so I think this is a great matchup. So just so everybody knows the layout, the format, this is a coffee chat. It's not a debate. Each candidate has given me 3 questions, and we have shared those questions. And then I have picked a question as well and shared that with the candidates. And we're just going to have a discussion. We've already kind of discussed what we're going to do beforehand, so we'll just jump right in there. And the first question, and if I look away, it's because I have all the questions up here on my TV, is a Chris question to Julie. And this is, there's an extensive list of CIP items which have been presented to council. What are the top 3 or 4 projects you would support? Why? And why are they important? Julie, you have the floor.
Thank you. So obviously, as you heard, Chris has been on the council before. He served 2.5 years. So in this regard, he would be more familiar with all the CIP projects. While I have not had the opportunity to review each individual project and all of those details, I was able to watch the city council meeting that just occurred on Tuesday, in which city council picked about 4 projects that they would then send on to Tarrant County, and Tarrant County would determine which of these projects they would pick up, under the understanding that if Tarrant County determines that it's an approved project, that they would then pay for half of it. I do have some concerns with how this might work. The 4 projects that are being sent on to Tarrant County would cost roughly $20 million for the city of Kennedale. And of course, as I said, it would be up to Tarrant County to determine which to approve. And unfortunately, nobody knows exactly which criteria the county of Tarrant would use to determine which were approved or which were not. And so potentially, like I said, this could cost up to $20 million for the city. My understanding is that Kennedale has never had a bond for over $4 million, that there's currently a $6 million bond in the works, another $8 million that might be potential. So currently our total bonds stand at $12.5 million. So that's outstanding debt. And so if we were to add another 14 million or 20 million to that, there are concerns about how those would impact the taxes on all the residents in the community. And again, that $20 million is just an estimate. It might be much greater than that. And so at the last city council meeting, we did learn that recently the city is no longer operating at a deficit, which is great. We shouldn't be operating at a deficit. And so my concern would be, we need to prioritize all of these improvements in such a way as to address what needs to be done while making sure that the citizens are not overly burdened with their property taxes.
Okay, so on the bonds, and my understanding is, especially from the city council, there's the one for all the road works, and a lot of those, like one of them, for example, is the extension over by Steeplechase to widen the bridge, widen the road, and make that kind of a thoroughway. And in that connection, there's like the county will pay for the majority if we do that, but we can also do this at the same time at the discount because they're already going to be there. And then the other bonds is like a bond package, and I believe all this is going to be up to the electors, up to the citizens. It'll be put up to a vote, but that would be a bond package for like a new police station, a new fire station, fire truck, and park improvements. So obviously you support both. Is your concerns about both together or picking one over the other? Which priority, I guess, would you think?
So my understanding of this question is that the CIP improvements that Chris was speaking to in that regard would not include the projects as far as the fire station and the police station. And so that would be.
I just want to make sure I understood, because it was a big package, and I believe the biggest one of that would have been that little school road, that widening, and because the bridges aren't cheap.
Right.
Okay. All right. Chris, I'll let you answer your question.
So as you know, we do have the once every 10 to 15 year bond package come up from Tarrant County. And the projects that the council recommended have already been brought up. And I think that those are very important. When we look at the state of where development is taking place on the other side of the railroad tracks from our police and fire stations, the need for an above grade crossing becomes more and more critical as we have more residential and development on that side of town. And as Chief Brown brought up, the train sitting on the track, the railroad dispatch doesn't call PD and say, hey, by the way, if you need to go to the south side of town, you got to go to Mansfield.
Yeah.
So as we have more and more residential development in that area, that crossing becomes more and more critical to providing first responder access and even citizen access, because there have been times where the train has been on the tracks for a very long time,
hours,
people from going home or from coming back into town if they were on the other side of the tracks.
July 4th, 2 years ago.
Yeah. Some other projects that are on the list I think are very important is the need for the sewer line that goes to the south side of town to be brought up to a modern system. We have different pipes.
And that's the one that's going to like the Turt's properties down there, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
The sewer line is different sizes as it crosses town. And common sense will tell you that a 6-inch pipe going into a 12-inch pipe in the wrong direction is probably not a good thing. So I think getting those sewer lines in shape so that we don't have issues with existing homes as well as future construction is important. And I know with the Magnolia Hills development, there's been a lot of concern about Collet Sublet and the road and interconnecting there. And I think the Collet Subject project is also very important, as that's going to become more of a through street over time as the Magnolia Hills develops. I understand Ms. Jacobson's concern about the tax burden. Part of these projections have been based on the fact that we have a large portion of our bond money dropping off that's going to be paid off in 2023. Mm-hmm. And so those funds can be used on some of the projects from the CIP list as the council deems appropriate without increasing the tax rate. And then, of course, as you mentioned, there are some other projects that would in all likelihood come up as a general bond election for the citizens to decide what do they want to pay for and what do they want to pass on at this time.
Sure. And so let me just do a little quick follow-up on that, since there's a commonality there. Both of you guys kind of touched on transportation, and I think we all can agree as taxpayers that that's probably one of the biggest priorities of the city should be our roads, and then of course, civil city services if they can offer. So with that in mind, the transportation, with the bond package that we're trying to do, it's that collaboration between county and state, I believe, as well. And the state, where 80-20 or some of the scenarios where they pay 80, we pay 20. So do you think that we should, when we have these opportunities, and again, to clarify, this has been an opportunity that Mayor Johnson's been working on for years, and to get that kind of attention over here, do you think when we have these opportunities, should we do a bond? Should council just approve it if it's within their power, or should it always be put to a vote? Julie, I'll go ahead and let you do that first. My follow-up.
I think anytime we have a vote for the citizens, that the geo type packages like that, obviously, if that's up to the citizens and they vote for it, then I would support that.
So do you think that we should do a bond if we're going to get a good deal, basically, if we're going to have county and Texas taxpayers pay for part of that?
My concern with that would be that the county is supposed to be reimbursing the city of Kennedale, which means Kennedale would have to front 100% of that. I would need to see the terms about what percentage of the project must be complete before the reimbursement comes in. My main concern, especially since we're talking about such big projects, would be that we would get 50% into the project, and then for some reason, an unforeseen consequence happens. We're unable to complete the project, and now we've already spent the money to do that.
Sure. So, and Chris, you might already know this, but you know that a lot of these bonds are like 5 years in the making. It's already reserved money. So do you feel the same way about doing a bond?
I think it depends on the project. I mean, on smaller projects, that's why the council is elected, is to make those decisions. And we can't just bind every single decision that the council makes to a vote, because that's why we have the election every 2 years. The council is there to represent the citizens and the interests that they have. And if something's coming up on the agenda that may involve a CO type bond, then you can reach out to your constituents, or go to the Kennedale News and read what people are saying, because you generally will post an article about those kinds of expenses.
Shameless.
Certainly, I think when we're getting into multi-million-dollar projects like a fire station that's going to be a tax rate increase from property taxes, that absolutely needs to go to the citizens. But I would agree that we need to do the best effort we can to make the most use of our money. Mm-hmm. And for an example, an above grade railroad crossing is $12 million, $14 million for that project. Kennedale is never going to have $14 million in expendable cash. And if we can get the state through the county or TxDOT to pay for the bulk of that, and that's something that the citizens support, then I think the council needs to move forward and make those improvements and use our money as best we can.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move on so we don't beat a dead horse. So this is a Julie question to Chris. The comprehensive plan was created in 2012. I love this question, Julie. I love it. Do you think it needs to be updated, What have you done to update the plan? What changes would you make to the plan? Do you think citizen views and desires are the same and have changed? And does it represent the citizens' wants? So just a kind of a general questionnaire of the comprehensive plan, which I believe you were not a part of.
I was not a part of the original plan. However, in 2018, Melissa and her staff held a series of meetings throughout the community. Some were in HOA type settings, some were in general locations such as City Hall. And there were invitations sent out for anyone and everyone to attend those meetings. And during that meeting, Melissa made presentations with boards and photos and conceptual drawings of different ideas and different directions for the city. And then at the end of those presentations, the citizens who attended were allowed to fill out a survey, and it had numerous questions about different types of development, different things that you may or may not want to see. There were things on there about retail, there were things on there about trails and bike paths and development. And all of those results were compiled by the planning department to evaluate where the comp plan stood against those survey results. And the majority of those results favored the direction that the current plan was going. So in my opinion, the comp plan has been looked at within the last, I guess, 3 years, if we're talking about numerics, but really probably in the last 24 months. It was examined by a number of citizens, and those who attended were allowed to give their feedback. So since the citizens who attended support where the plan is going, I would support where the plan is sitting right now until the next time it's reviewed, which I'm guessing will probably be another 2 or 3 years if we looked at it every 5.
Okay. Julie?
So in regards to the citizens being invited to speak back in 2018 in regards to the comprehensive plan, unfortunately, I don't recall ever receiving an invitation for that. Most of my neighbors don't recall ever receiving an invitation for that. So I do have concerns that perhaps there are a lot of voices left out. But most importantly, given what has happened this past year with the COVID epidemic, the comprehensive plan envisioned an urban village type situation where many people would be living and working in one condensed city area. Since COVID has hit, obviously that's not what people are looking at doing anymore. So if nothing else, just for the reason of COVID, we need to relook at what was envisioned, since more people want to be more spaced out so as not to continue to spread any type of coronavirus. But also that comprehensive plan, I believe, has failed to bring in any new businesses. As we all know, the town center is, half empty, half vacant. They haven't been able to bring in the right mix of businesses and residences. So that planning, where that planning is heading, it doesn't appear that it's the right type of growth right now. And so I think that we should readdress the comprehensive plan, given the COVID situation and what we've learned over the past 3 or 4 years about which direction we're headed in. And we need to implement a new plan that can reasonably be implemented to achieve the goal, that would be able to be done in an appropriate amount of time, but also within budget. So ultimately, that would mean that City Council, at the direction of the citizens, would also need to approve only plans that fit the renewed comprehensive plan or the modified comprehensive plan. And we need to start disapproving the projects or development that don't meet the plan criteria, regardless of how alluring that plan or project or improvement may have been.
Okay, so I did both the 2012 and the 2018. I was part of the 2012 and did the 2018. So I also did the green space being on the Parks Board. So I've done these plans and remember all the questions. And to me, it's good to have the intensive comprehensive plan like we have. And that should, to me, last 10 years. And the reason why I say 10 years, and this is also a reason why I don't think we should have term limits on things of assembly like councils, is because it takes so long to get anything done that if you bumps a council off and you limit them, let's say, for 2 terms, then how do you get anything done? Well, how you get things done is things like a comprehensive plan, which is why I think it takes 10 years. I was happy that the city kind of did an update, and Melissa just kind of did that because she had just kind of got hired the year before, I believe it was. And I think she wanted to get on top of it and make sure that that was the plan. So do you think that we should, spend the money and do like a big one again, which on the 2012 UTA did it for us as a partnership. And we are grateful that they could do that for us. But the original one that they did for like the 10 reasons to get, that's holding Kennedale back from, I think it was 2007, I believe is when they did that. That cost $1 million. So do you think we should spend that kind of money and do it big again? Or should we do something like we did in 2018? Because I think the COVID is a valid point. I think next year, once we get out of COVID, see if people still want that kind of scenario. I think that's a valid point. So should we just do what we did in 2018, which was just check and see and then adjust? Or is this, let's just scratch it and start over and pay $1 million, quote unquote, to do it all over again? Who answered first? That was Chris. I'll let you answer first.
I certainly don't think we should spend $1 million on a full-blown cover-to-cover comprehensive plan.
And what if it was free? What if and UTA would do it again, but what if it was free?
I think maybe in another year, 18 months, we could revisit that, since we just did we'll call it a high-level review of the plan through the surveys and the meetings. I don't know that it's necessary to do that right now. I think once we see where the rest of the year takes us and how things end up, I would somewhat disagree that people don't want to be close together. And the example I would cite is we have the Magnolia Hills subdivision right now, which is smaller lots. And it's probably 25% sold in just a few weeks' time. So while I certainly agree there are people who are being cautious, I also think there are people that want to move forward and have decided that they're okay with where things are, and those properties are selling. So I think we have to find the middle ground. Certainly we want to have housing opportunities for everybody.
Sure. Especially our seniors, right? Affordable housing.
Certainly. And I don't want to get too far off topic, but I think that, given that the majority of the feedback felt at that time that we were going in the right direction, that we could ride that out for another 18 months or so, and then possibly reach out to UTA and try to do another partnership with them and take a look at it, a little deep dive more than what we did in 2018.
All right, Julie, since this is your question, obviously it's a topic that you're campaigning on. Like how far should we go? Like, should we just, baby steps or write a new check? Well,
obviously I'm against spending money if we don't have to. We should start out smaller, check-in with the citizens. But as you were saying, if it has been 9 years since they have done that comprehensive plan, and it does not look like much has been accomplished on it, which leads one to believe perhaps that is the wrong way to go, or at least we need to readdress it to see which way it's going to go. So you would start small. Hopefully we could address any of the issues starting small, but if needed, especially if it was a possibility through UTA, how can we take what has been done and combine it with what the citizens want going into the future, since it's been 9 years since it was made? Look to see if there are any changes we need to make this more realistic and more reasonable, because that is one of the concerns about the comprehensive plan, is that it's not really realistic about what could be accomplished within that 10-year span. And we know that it's not realistic because here we are 9 years down the road and not much of it has been accomplished.
Okay. Is there like a specific grievance of it that you would want to tackle real fast? Because I know I don't want to keep you guys all night. You had mentioned, let's talk about commerce. You had mentioned like business development so the comprehensive plans talks about specific zonings to encourage business growth, right? And so you think in the last 10 years that we haven't grown or grown fast enough, or?
I have not been able to see businesses be successful in Kennedale. Main concern is town center. We've got a completely vacant building in the middle of town center, and it's been vacant for how long? I've seen several businesses go in and go out, and unfortunately nobody's been successful there. And so that's my concern. Why would we have built such a big building to have no one rent it?
Okay. Chris, any comments on that?
I do actually, and I know we're not trying to debate, but the city didn't build town center. Town center is built by a private developer. So, while yes, I would agree there are some empty spaces, the city did not pay for those. Those were built by a private individual, and it didn't cost the city any money for town center. That construction was paid for by someone else. And as we continue to grow and we have more folks come into town, that will give businesses a better opportunity to thrive and survive.
Yeah, and as a business owner, and Chris, you've heard me preach about this for years. Kennedale's got to do business in Kennedale, especially on the retail side, to make business profitable. If there's no profit, then I'm going to be bankrupt, and that's one of the reasons why I don't have an IT. I work out of my home instead of having an office, because we've looked at that one space like you're talking about, Julie. It's expensive. It really is. And so it's going to take something like, I believe a liquor store was trying to go there originally, which would have been, I think, a good fit there, because that they could have sustained that kind of rent in that spot. But over the years, I being a part of the chamber and things like that, I've seen business grow, and we're hanging in there. And the biggest thing was, it's always been, let's get more rooftops, more people mean better projections for business. Better projections means that people like me will risk the money. And that's just kind of my 2 cents. Zonings, in my opinion, are to allow certain businesses in certain areas, but beyond that, I think we should just get out of the way and let business do business. But
unfortunately, no business is doing business in some of those buildings, so
sure,
that's to the detriment of citizen residents.
Place went up, the flooring place went up, the salon place, which is really successful, it went up. Subway's always been there. Insurance went up and down. The dentist, there was a medical doctor, now there's a dentist over there. Too bad Gary's Tacos went, because we love Gary's tacos, but Uber, the Eats place, the healthy place, that's survived COVID, which was my surprise. And Dickie's is still there. So, and there's now a beautician salon on the back end of that. So I think it's just that one empty building, which can be segged up into like 3 smaller ones. It's left with plans of a phase 5 and 6. And I believe they always hoped that 5 would be like a daycare. And they almost got a local to agree to do daycare there, but it just didn't pan out. But you're right. There's other businesses down the road, but there's a distillery now.
There have been businesses that did not survive there. There was a laundromat. There was a realty office. There have been plenty that have not survived there.
Sure. And that, I just think that's just business 101. But that's why I don't have a shop, and and I don't also have to do business in Kennedale. I can do all across the world, which is how I survive. And that's just my 2 cents about it, is bring more people. More people means they'll shop here, and then I might risk my money to start a business there. Anybody want to beat the dead horse on that one? I know we kind of got off topic from the thing, but I'm glad we spidered
I will say,
to economics.
We do get a lot of traffic going down 287 business.
Yes.
And so if your premise was correct, that we just needed people to go in and out of there, and that would build the business, I think that, the traffic shows that that's not necessarily the case. Perhaps we need some businesses in there that people need to go to, something that will draw people in to Kennedale, not just businesses that are convenient or not to stop at. Because for all the people in Mansfield who go down Kennedale Parkway every day to go to work, they're not stopping. So what can we do to get them to stop in Kennedale?
I think that's a good question. Chris, you want to answer that? Like, what can we do to encourage entrepreneurs?
I guess my thought would be is that I don't know that that's the role of the city council to build retail business. I think you hit it on the head, Jeff, that's a business person making an informed decision on choosing the right type of business to open and the right location from which to open it. Now, what I think the city can do, which we have been working on, is through the COG, is to do the Complete Streets program and to try to redo Kennedale Parkway to make it more inviting, maybe slow it down, put some medians, put a crosswalk between the admin building and the town center and the park area. I think those are things that the city could do. You could potentially maybe look at changing signing ordinances. There has been
No, I'm all about that.
there has been some pushback that the signing ordinances are challenging, and I haven't ever applied for a sign, so I'm probably not the expert to speak on that. But I know that we have had some people bring that up from time to time.
All the time.
So I think that there are some small things that the city could do, but I think a big portion of it is the right person opening a business. You know, the antique mall has succeeded very well in their section.
Mhm.
The martial arts business has done well,
Very well.
and they have survived through the challenges of the last year, and some of the other businesses. So while yes, there have been businesses come and go, you could drive all over town and see locations where businesses come and go, and you're like, wow, why has that place always got a revolving door on that piece of property? So
People love their chicken express around here and their
they
burger
do.
bar. Yeah.
But I really think that it's up to business owners to create a business model that's inviting, and the city can do some of that, but I don't think it's the city's responsibility to go out and recruit business owners. I just don't believe that's how the free market should work.
So,
So
Julie,
just
just remind you, you had proposed, what can the city or even council encourage the city to do to encourage entrepreneurs like myself to invest in business?
I think if we can
No,
work with
that's
COG
for
and,
Julie, Chris. You already
I'm
answered.
sorry. Yeah.
I apologize. I do have a question in regards to what Chris said, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because if it's not the city's job to bring in business, is it the city's job to bring in new residents?
Chris?
Well, I think one of the primary roles of a city is to provide a safe environment for people to live, to provide infrastructure, police, fire protection, and services like trash, water, and sewer. So when you have people who want to come and live here, then we have the opportunity to look at those potential developments and decide whether they're good for us or not.
Okay.
And we're in
You
an-
left out the biggest factor why people move. It's parks.
And again, Jeff's been on the Parks Board. I know that unfortunately this last year has really put a damper on us looking at some of the plans we had for the park system.
Never, not while I'm chairman.
So hopefully things will look better this year.
All right. So
Again,
we're sidebar. Julie, back to your original point, was what can the city or even council with the city do to encourage entrepreneurs to settle in Kennedale?
And so, like I said, the comprehensive plan from 2012 envisioned that residents and businesses would move in to kind of create an ecosystem that perhaps would be self-sustaining. Now, if we want residents to move here, a lot of that is going to be that we have businesses here. If we're going to follow the comprehensive plan or to half of the plan, whatever percentage of the plan we can get to, that envisioned businesses being here. But if we can't have businesses here, are we going to just be a bedroom town? Because that would be a complete rewriting of the comprehensive plan. And that's what I hear Chris saying.
Well, and I'll quote. I can hear Mayor Johnson in my head right now. It's the chicken and the egg scenario. That's how he says it, right? And that's where I think the city's been always struggling. But it's always been the last 10 years about the perfect storm, the population boom, and you've heard me say this for years, Chris. It's our turn. Like I've been talking to developer friends. One of them just bought land from the EDC. I've been bragging about Kennedale for years, and they're saying, yes, we're hot right now. So I think it's the comprehensive plan was good pre-planning. We should always look at the evolving door. I mean, a whole decade passed from the 60s to 70s. I mean, look at how crazy 50s to 60s, 70s to 80s, just in a decade, how we changed. And I think it's valid that we should come back and always evaluate our plans. I just don't think we should ever just throw it out, but we should evolve it and make sure that we're evolving as a city and looking forward, so we can lay out the path, work the golden path to that goes well past any of us survival. Great questions. I like where we went. Let's go ahead and move on so I don't keep you guys all night.